Assalamu alaikum, my dear brothers and sisters. Today I want to speak to you about a treasure so vast that the Messenger of Allah compared its reward to the reward of a whole year of fasting and standing in night prayer. An action whose yield is so immense, it compresses the devotion of 365 days into a single moment. That action is jihad in the path of Allah. Yes, standing guard on the frontier for a single night, vigilant in the cause of Allah, is equal in reward to a year of the most beloved voluntary deeds. Let that sink in. Not just fasting the long days of Ramadan, but every day. Not just the Tahajjud of the last 10 nights, but every night. For a whole year. Why? What is the secret of this immense scale? Imagine a marketplace, not of bricks and mortar, but of the soul. In this divine marketplace, the currency is not gold or silver, but sacrifice. The weight of a deed, its value in the eyes of the Almighty, is measured not by its outward spectacle, but by the degree to which it cost you something of your own self, your own comfort, your very nature. This is the foundational truth that unlocks the staggering equation we ponder today, how a single night of vigilance can hold the spiritual weight of an entire year of nights spent in prayer and days spent in fasting. It all resides in the hierarchy of sacrifice. Let us first understand the sacrifices we already know and revere. Consider the fast. From dawn until dusk, you wage a quiet internal war. You deny your body its most fundamental, habitual demand nourishment. The growl of the stomach, the dryness of the throat, the creeping fatigue. These are the foot soldiers of your own desire, and you hold the line against them. You sacrifice the immediate gratification of taste, the social ease of sharing a meal, the physical energy that food provides. It is a sacrifice of appetite, a deliberate embrace of lack for the sake of a higher fullness. It is a powerful act of devotion because it says to your Creator, my need for you is greater than my need for this. Then consider Tahajjud. In the deepest, most silent chamber of the night, when the world is swaddled in oblivion, you tear yourself from the profound comfort of your bed. You sacrifice the surrender of sleep, which is a form of temporary death, a mercy and a respite. You exchange the warmth of your blanket for the cool of the prayer mat, the dreams of the subconscious for the conscious communion with the divine. This sacrifice is perhaps even more intimate than fasting, for it is a battle against an inertia that is woven into your biology. It is the sacrifice of rest, of ease, of a primal need, all to stand before Allah in a state of utter vulnerability and private conversation. The value of these acts, fasting and night prayer, is immense precisely because of what they cost us. Now elevate that concept to its ultimate zenith. Consider the one standing guard on the frontier, the Raibat. What is his sacrifice? It is not merely one facet of his being that is offered, it is the totality of his condition. He has sacrificed the very ground of safety. He is not simply hungry or sleepy. He is in a state of perpetual alertness where the primal human need for security is voluntarily suspended. The cool of the night is not a prelude to rest, but a canvas for potential threat. The silence is not for prayer alone, but is punctuated by the tension of listening for what should not be. He sacrifices comfort, certainly, the comfort of a soft bed, a warm home, the predictable rhythm of civilian life. But more than that, he sacrifices the assurance that he will see the morning, the assurance that his life will follow the gentle arc of days and seasons he has known. His sacrifice encompasses the physical, like the fasting person, but it is magnified by environment. It encompasses the denial of rest, like the one praying Tahajjud, but it is intensified by danger. He holds the line not just against his own personal desires, but against a tangible force that seeks to undermine the very space where his brothers and sisters can fast and pray in peace. His vigil is what guards their opportunity for devotion. This is the completeness of his offering. He gives his present comfort, his future certainty, and places his very existence as a shield between the community of faith and that which would disrupt it. He is, in the most literal sense, spending his as self. This is why the reward is scaled so astronomically. The divine scales are perfectly just, They measure the weight of the surrender. A year of daily fasting is a magnificent tapestry of 365 individual acts of denying the self. A year of nightly tahajjud is a breathtaking constellation of 365 victories over inertia. But the single night on the frontier, it is a concentrated essence of that same self-denial, amplified to its maximum volume. It is as if all the hunger of those fasts, all the wrestled sleep of those nights, are compressed into one prolonged, unbroken state of being where the soul declares, I hold nothing back. My safety, my ease, my very life are secondary to my duty to you and your cause. This principle whispers a profound truth to us in our own lives, far from physical battlefields. The spiritual economy runs on this same currency. When you force yourself to pray while weighed down by a grief that makes you want to curl up in silence, that prayer carries a weight far beyond its motions. You are sacrificing the indulgence of your despair. When you give charity not from your surplus, but from an amount that you will genuinely feel the absence of, you are sacrificing a piece of your financial security. When you hold your tongue from a juicy piece of gossip that your ego is itching to share, you are sacrificing the social currency of being, the no. In each case, the value is in the cost. The night vigil on the frontier is the archetype, the purest form of this transaction. It shows us that Allah's calculus is one of love and recognition. He sees the totality of what is being laid down. The soldier on the border shivering in the dark is not just performing a military duty, he is in that moment the living embodiment of the phrase La ilaha illa Allah. There is no God but Allah, and I am here in this state as a proof of it. His entire reality has become a testament to that declaration. His hunger, his wakefulness, his vulnerability, his courage, all are now verses in a living prayer. So, when we hear this hadith and wonder at its mathematics, we must look beyond the numbers to the nature of the offering. A year of fasting and prayer represents the beautiful, consistent giving of parts of the self. The night of jihad represents the ultimate azar's gifting of the whole self, even if temporarily, into the hands of the divine. In that state of total surrender, time itself is transcended. The heart, pulsing with sincerity and surrender, in that lonely outpost, connects to the divine throne with such intensity that the rewards showering upon it are not bound by the slow tick of a clock or the turn of a calendar. They belong to the timeless economy of grace, where a single moment of perfect, costly sincerity can indeed outshine the accumulated glow of 1,000 ordinary days. Consider for a moment the physical act of standing guard. A person perhaps cold, perhaps weary, eyes scanning a horizon, ears attuned to the night. On the surface, it is a military function, a duty of vigilance. But in the economy of the soul, the surface is a veil, and the reality lies in the unseen realm of intention. This is the profound secret. The staggering reward for a night on the frontier is not for the motion of the body, but for the estate of the heart that transforms that simple act into a continuous, all-consuming cathedral of worship. The body is at a post, the heart is at the foot of the throne. Let us dissect this state. The one standing guard is not merely preventing an incursion. If that were the sole objective, the reward would be commensurate with a tactical success. But the hadith speaks of a spiritual reward so vast it rivals a lifetime of devotion. This tells us that the guard station has been transfigured. His mere presence there with the correct intention, La wajlillah, for the sake of Allah alone, alters the very nature of his reality. The rocky ground beneath his feet ceases to be just earth and stone. It becomes his sajda, the place of his prostration. The vast, star-splattered sky above is no longer a void, it becomes the dome of his mosque, infinitely more majestic than any man-made structure. The chill of the night air is not a discomfort to be merely endured. It becomes the coolness of spiritual awareness, a reminder of his mortality and his dependence. In this state, every sensation, every sound, every thought is filtered through the lens of his purpose. Think of the one who performs tahajjud at home. He rises, makes wudu, and stands on his prayer mat for perhaps an hour, reciting, bowing, prostrating. It is a sacred bounded period of time. Then he concludes, makes dua, and returns to his bed. His worship had a clear beginning and end. Now imagine that state of tahajjud, that heart surrender, that tongue in remembrance, that mind focused on the divine, but instead of lasting for an hour, it is stretched to encompass the entire night. Not in the repetition of ritual movements, but in the unbroken orientation of the soul. This is the God's condition. His recitation is the silent, persistent dhikr of his heart, Allahu Akbar. God is greater than any threat I face. His ruku and sujood are the humility and submission ingrained in his posture of service. His qiyam, his standing, is literal and spiritual, as standing for truth itself. His worship is not segmented into rakos. It is a single sustained rak'ah of existence that lasts from dusk till dawn. This holistic devotion is what a year of separate acts seeks to cultivate. The believer who fasts every day is training his soul to remember God through hunger. The believer who prays every night is training his soul to seek God in solitude. These are profound transformative disciplines. But here, on the frontier, the training ground falls away and the soul enters the arena of direct application. The remembrance is no longer a practice, it is a lifeline. The seeking is no longer an exercise, it is the only reality. There is no after, the prayer to return to ordinary consciousness. The ordinary has been wholly sanctified. The vigilance for the enemy is, in its essence, vigilance for anything that would distract the heart from Allah. His watchfulness is, therefore, the very definition of muraqabah, the awareness that Allah is watching him. This is why the reward is analogous to a year. A year of nightly tahajjud represents 365 distinct efforts to wrench the heart away from the world and towards the divine. Each night is a struggle, a reorientation. Some nights the heart is present, other nights it is heavy. The spiritual growth comes from the cumulative effort, the constant return. The night of the Raibat, however, presents a condition where that wrenching away is unnecessary because the world, in its distracting, comforting form, has already been left behind. The heart, by the sheer circumstance and the purity of intention, is already there, in a state of focused surrender. It is living in the destination that the nightly prayer strives to reach. 1 hour of being at the destination is worth countless hours of journeying toward it. Furthermore, this state of the heart encompasses dimensions beyond even the most devoted individual worship. The person praying tahajjud is in a private communion. His worship benefits his soul. But the God state, while deeply personal, is intrinsically tied to a communal living purpose. His heart is not only in a state of submission to Allah, but is also beating in rhythm with the higher duty, the protection of the Ummah, the preservation of the space where Islam can be lived. His inner state of worship is married to an outer state of service. His heart holds two intentions simultaneously: the vertical intention for Allah's pleasure and the horizontal intention for the safety of the believers. This fusion of the devotional and the protective, the spiritual and the practical, creates a compound intensity. His heart becomes a fortress guarding two treasures, his own faith and the faith of the community. This dual guarding, the internal guard against heedlessness and the external guard against threat, is a complete embodiment of faith, or iman. Thus, when we marvel at the scale of the reward, we must understand that Allah is not rewarding a mere act of standing. He is rewarding the universe of devotion contained within that standing. He is rewarding the heart that has turned its post into a mihrab, the night into a prayer mat, and the long hours into a single, drawn-out utterance of His oneness. The body is stationary, but the heart is in a perpetual state of spiritual motion, circling the divine, ascending in station and holding the line. In that blessed state, time, as we measure it, becomes irrelevant. A minute filled with that quality of conscious, sacrificial presence is denser with devotion than days of routine. The night passes not as a sequence of hours, but as a single, sustained note of sincerity. And in the court of the All-Knowing, who measures deeds by the weight of the hearts behind them, such a night carries the weight of 1,000 moons, the substance of a year of striving, because for that one night, the striver ceased striving and simply was, fully, completely, and irrevocably a slave of God, standing where his Lord had placed him, his entire being a testament and a prayer.